The calm before the storm. In the vastness of the galaxy, there were many worlds and species. Some were peaceful, while others were brutal and deadly. Among the most feared were the Dranvok, a species known for their strength, military power, and bloodthirsty ways. For centuries, the Dranvok had ruled many systems, their ships prowling the galaxy like predators hunting for their next victim. Wherever they went, fear followed. Their name alone struck terror into the hearts of all who heard it. The Dranvok were known as Deathworlders, creatures born on a planet where survival was a daily fight. They were ruthless, tough, and had no mercy for the weak. Their technology was advanced, their warriors were trained from birth, and their fleets were massive. No species dared to challenge them, or at least, no one had until now. Far from the Dranvok's reach, on a small and unassuming planet called Earth, humanity was beginning to stir. For years, humans had been seen as little more than an insignificant species stuck on their small planet, lacking the power and technology to make any kind of impact on the galaxy. They were just another species in a universe filled with far more powerful beings. But that was about to change. Earth had always been a world of extremes. Every corner of the planet had its own dangers, be it massive storms, dangerous creatures, or the very environment itself. It was a world where only the strongest survived, and the humans, despite their weaknesses, had survived it all. The Dranvok knew Earth existed, but they didn't see it as a threat. They believed that no species could survive long on such a harsh world, let alone become a serious force in the galaxy. They thought of humans as primitive, a race still struggling to understand basic technology, stuck in their own solar system. They had dismissed them as nothing more than an interesting oddity, something to watch from a distance, but not worth worrying about. However, as the Dranvok prepared to expand their territory even further, something stirred on Earth. A few humans had begun to reach the stars. At first, their space missions were primitive, clumsy, and easily destroyed by the dangers of space. But the humans persisted. They sent out more ships, built stronger engines, and began to learn from their failures. Their progress was slow, but steady. It was in the quiet of space that the humans' first real breakthrough came. A small but advanced fleet of human ships was formed, equipped with new technology that had the potential to challenge even the most powerful empires in the galaxy. No one knew yet how far humanity could go, but it was clear that their journey into the stars had begun. The Dranvok, however, were unaware of these developments. They were focused on their next conquest, planning to take over a rich, distant star system that was home to a weak, peaceful species. They had no idea that a storm was brewing, a storm that would change the galaxy forever. The humans had learned much from their own world's brutal history, and now they were bringing that knowledge to the stars. As the Dranvok prepared for war against yet another unsuspecting species, the first signs of a true conflict began to appear. A human ship, far smaller than the Dranvoks, but much more advanced than anything the humans had built before, drifted through space, unnoticed by the powerful alien forces. This was the first wave of humanity's challenge to the galaxy, a challenge that would soon be impossible to ignore. It wasn't much, a small ship, a few brave souls aboard it, but it was enough to send a message. The Dranvok laughed at the humans, seeing them as nothing more than a passing curiosity. They didn't understand yet what the humans had endured, what they had been through to survive on their harsh world. Earth was a place where survival was a constant battle. The humans had learned to adapt, to fight, and to survive against all odds. This made them different from the Dranvok and every other species the galaxy had ever known. As the Dranvok fleet began its march toward their next conquest, they remained blissfully ignorant of the threat humanity posed. They had no idea that the humans, though small and seemingly weak, had one thing that no other species had, a willingness to fight with everything they had, no matter the odds. The humans had come to realize that survival meant more than technology. It was about the will to endure, the strength to push forward, and the heart to never give up. And so, in the silence of space, on the edge of a new chapter in galactic history, the calm before the storm was felt by few. But it wouldn't be long before the galaxy would understand what humans were capable of. The storm was coming, and nothing could stop it. The humans may have been underestimated, but the Dranvok were about to learn the truth. They had ruled as Deathworlders, but they had no idea what real Deathworlders were like. The calm before the storm was over. The storm was coming, and it was bringing something the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity was ready to show the universe what they were made of, and no one was prepared for what was coming next. The Dranvok fleet was vast, a terrifying force of warships and dreadnoughts. Each ship was a symbol of their power, gliding through space like a predator in its territory. The Dranvok had conquered countless worlds, their enemies falling before them without so much as a fight. Their reputation preceded them, and no species dared to challenge them. But now, as the Dranvok made their way toward the peaceful world they planned to invade, there was a new, unexpected element stirring in the galaxy: humanity. Unbeknownst to the Dranvok, the humans had been preparing for this moment. It wasn't with the intention of challenging the galaxy's most powerful species. They hadn't even known the Dranvok existed until a few years ago. But they knew one thing for sure. The universe was vast, and survival in space was going to be far more dangerous than they ever imagined. They needed to be ready. The humans' advancements in technology had been swift, if not remarkable. Their spacecraft were becoming faster, more durable, and equipped with weapons that were light years ahead of what their previous fleets had. Despite their advancements, the human fleet was still small, lacking the massive armadas of the Dranvok or other galactic powers. But what the humans lacked in size, they made up for in ingenuity and spirit. They were survivors. On Earth, no one really knew the true extent of the dangers that lay in the galaxy beyond. The Dranvok, to them, were just a story, an old legend from the days when humanity still believed it was the center of the universe. Little did they know, this legend was about to become all too real. The Dranvok had come to expect resistance from the weak, the species they had already subjugated. They expected fear, submission, and quick victories. But the humans were different. They were unlike anything the Dranvok had encountered before. The first encounter between a human ship and a Dranvok patrol was nothing short of shocking. The Dranvok warship was massive, capable of obliterating entire fleets, and they expected the human ship to be nothing more than an easy target. After all, the humans were just a fledgling species, still recovering from their history of war, famine, and suffering on their own planet. To the Dranvok, the idea of a human ship being a challenge was laughable. But as the first human vessel, the USV Liberty, emerged from the deep reaches of space, its size seemed small compared to the Dranvok's formidable ships. However, the human ship was fast and agile, moving like a sleek predator through the stars. It wasn't much, but it had something no Dranvok ship had: unpredictability. The humans had learned how to fight smarter, not just harder. As the Dranvok fleet engaged the humans, they were quickly caught off guard. The humans weren't interested in fighting fair. They fought dirty. Their tactics were unconventional, something the Dranvok had never encountered before. The human ships used their knowledge of their own world's deadly conditions to create a battlefield that worked in their favor. They relied on clever maneuvering, unexpected strikes, and most importantly, they never backed down. The Dranvok were astounded by the humans' resilience. Instead of surrendering or fleeing, the humans fought with everything they had. They adapted quickly to the situation, learning from each encounter and using that knowledge to gain an edge. It wasn't just the technology that set them apart. It was the sheer willpower that pushed them forward, no matter the odds. The Dranvok were beginning to realize something. The humans weren't like any other species they had faced. They didn't fold under pressure. They didn't give up when the going got tough. Instead, they dug in their heels and fought harder. In every encounter, the humans left a message for the Dranvok: we won't be so easily defeated. As the battles between the two forces grew fiercer, the Dranvok began to lose their confidence. They had underestimated the humans, assuming that their advanced technology, brute strength, and superior numbers would guarantee victory. But the humans had something that no amount of firepower could match: their determination. A new reality was beginning to take shape. The Dranvok had come to conquer, but now they were beginning to wonder if they had bitten off more than they could chew. This wasn't the easy conquest they had been expecting. The humans, it seemed, had an innate ability to turn the tables at every turn. What was even more unsettling for the Dranvok was that the humans didn't just fight to survive. They fought to win. But this was only the beginning. The Dranvok would soon learn that they had underestimated their enemy in ways they hadn't even considered. As the battles raged on, humanity would begin to reveal more of its true power, a power that would shake the galaxy to its core. And somewhere in the chaos, the humans were no longer just defending their planet. They were defending their very right to exist in the galaxy. The Dranvok had come to the galaxy expecting to reign over all, but they had walked into something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. The humans had turned the tables, and the Dranvok's reign of terror was about to be challenged in ways they never thought possible. The real battle had only just begun, and the Dranvok would soon understand that this wasn't their universe anymore. The humans were here, and they weren't going anywhere. As the war raged on, the Dranvok began to realize that they had seriously underestimated the humans. Every battle was a lesson, and each lesson was more humbling than the last. The Dranvok, with their immense firepower and centuries of warfare experience, expected a quick victory. They believed they would sweep through humanity's defenses with ease, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. But what the Dranvok didn't anticipate was the one thing that no military strategist could predict: human resilience. The humans were not just fighters. They were survivors. They didn't just have weapons. They had ingenuity. In the face of overwhelming odds, they didn't cower. Instead, they adapted. They innovated. They fought with a fierce determination that shook the very foundation of the Dranvok war machine. On Earth, the humans had always been forced to fight for survival. The planet had been home to wars, famine, and environmental disasters. Life on Earth had always been a struggle, but this struggle had forged something incredible: an unwavering spirit. From the smallest child to the oldest elder, humans had learned that survival meant pushing forward, no matter the obstacles. The Dranvok, in their arrogance, believed that they could crush humanity the same way they had crushed countless other species. But they were wrong. The human spirit couldn't be crushed. The Dranvok had made the mistake of thinking that a species' strength could be measured solely by its technology and military power. They had overlooked the human ability to persevere when all seemed lost. In one of the most pivotal moments of the war, the Dranvok launched a full-scale assault on Earth's defenses, hoping to break humanity's will once and for all. Their warships, heavily armed and brimming with soldiers, descended upon Earth's atmosphere, ready to rain destruction down upon the unsuspecting human population. The Dranvok had anticipated chaos, panic, and surrender. What they got instead was a defiant roar from humanity. The humans had prepared for this moment. They had been building their own fleet, small but growing in power. With each passing day, they improved their tactics, learned new ways to fight, and developed technology that could match the Dranvok's might. But more importantly, they had prepared mentally. They were no longer a young, untested species. They had become hardened warriors, determined to protect their home at any cost. The humans' first response to the Dranvok invasion was nothing short of extraordinary. With remarkable coordination, their fleet emerged from Earth's orbit, meeting the Dranvok head-on in a battle that would forever change the course of history. The Dranvok were confident that they could destroy the humans with their superior firepower, but the human strategy was anything but conventional. They had studied their enemies and knew that brute force alone would not win this war. Instead, they used their environment to their advantage. The humans' understanding of their own world, with its unpredictable weather patterns, extreme terrains, and challenging ecosystems allowed them to turn the tide in ways the Dranvok never saw coming. They had developed advanced technology that could exploit the natural resources of Earth, turning them into weapons that even the Dranvok couldn't counter. One of the most shocking moments in the battle came when the humans used their knowledge of Earth's magnetic fields to create a weapon that disrupted the Dranvok's communications and navigation systems. In an instant, the Dranvok fleet was thrown into chaos. Their ships, once perfectly synchronized and coordinated, now struggled to maintain any semblance of order. It was a tactical blow that left the Dranvok reeling, but it wasn't the only one. Human soldiers, trained to survive in extreme conditions, launched surprise ground assaults on Dranvok positions. These soldiers, though fewer in number, fought with an intensity and resourcefulness that the Dranvok had never encountered. They used guerrilla tactics, striking fast and retreating into the dense forests or urban landscapes, never allowing the Dranvok to get a clear advantage. It was warfare unlike anything the Dranvok had seen, and it was beginning to shake their belief in their superiority. Meanwhile, on Earth, the human population was united like never before. In the face of the Dranvok's terror, humanity found a collective strength. People of all walks of life came together to fight for their planet. From scientists to teachers, from doctors to engineers, everyone contributed in some way to the war effort. The world's military forces, now led by brilliant tacticians and engineers, found innovative ways to strengthen humanity's defenses and even reverse some of the Dranvok's technological advantages. But it wasn't just Earth's military that the Dranvok had to contend with. Humanity's greatest strength lay in its people's determination to survive. Every human, no matter where they were, was fighting for the same goal, the survival of their species. And in the face of death, there was no greater motivator than the will to live. As the Dranvok began to realize that their invasion was not going as planned, they started to question their understanding of humanity. The humans were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting to preserve their way of life, to protect everything they held dear. And in doing so, they revealed a power that was impossible to ignore. The Dranvok had once ruled the galaxy with an iron fist, but now they were facing a species unlike any other. The humans didn't just fight. They fought to win. And in this new chapter of the war, the Dranvok were about to learn that their own power was no match for the fire that burned within the hearts of humanity. The battle for Earth was far from over, but the humans had already begun to change the course of history. The Dranvok had underestimated their enemy, and now they were beginning to fear the one thing they had never considered: the true strength of humans. The Dranvok had been in command for centuries, their empire stretching across the stars, crushing civilizations under the weight of their power. No species had ever stood up to them, not like this. The humans' unexpected resilience had caught them off guard, and now they were beginning to feel the pressure. Earth, a small, seemingly insignificant planet in the galaxy, was proving to be their greatest challenge yet. The battle continued to rage across Earth, but the humans, despite being outnumbered, were no longer the weaklings the Dranvok had assumed them to be. The war had become more than just a struggle for survival. It had become a symbol of defiance, a fight for the very soul of humanity. And the humans were winning. The Dranvok Command Center, a massive ship hovering above Earth's atmosphere, was beginning to show signs of strain. Reports came in of Dranvok warships being disabled or destroyed, their superior firepower neutralized by the humans' clever tactics. The human resistance forces had learned to adapt quickly, utilizing Earth's diverse environments to their advantage. The jungles, mountains, deserts, and oceans of Earth were no longer obstacles. They were assets. The humans had set up ambushes in the dense forests, where they blended into the landscape, waiting for Dranvok patrols to pass by. Then, in a flash, they struck, disabling vehicles and capturing Dranvok soldiers. In urban areas, they had turned the very infrastructure into weapons, using buildings and streets as traps for the invading forces. Their guerrilla tactics were like nothing the Dranvok had encountered. Every corner of the world seemed to be a battleground, and every corner of that world was now a place where the humans thrived. But it wasn't just Earth's terrain that was working in humanity's favor. It was their ingenuity. The humans had turned their greatest disadvantage into their greatest strength, their resourcefulness. They didn't have the advanced technology of the Dranvok, but they knew how to use what they had. They had re-engineered Earth's natural resources, transforming everything from raw materials to weapons of war. In one of the most unexpected developments of the war, humanity had discovered a way to use the planet's magnetic field to disrupt the Dranvok's advanced communication systems. The Dranvok, relying heavily on their technology, were rendered momentarily blind and deaf. The humans, on the other hand, thrived in the chaos. With their communication systems down, the Dranvok were forced to rely on outdated methods of coordination, and it wasn't long before cracks began to form in their battle strategy. As the Dranvok struggled to regain control, the humans mounted a counteroffensive. Their fleet, once a mere shadow of the Dranvok's power, was now a force to be reckoned with. The human warships, built with determination and ingenuity, fought alongside their ground forces. They were not as advanced as the Dranvok ships, but they were fast, maneuverable, and deadly in the hands of human pilots who fought with a sense of urgency and purpose that the Dranvok couldn't understand. The humans had also made incredible progress in adapting alien technology. They had reverse-engineered Dranvok weaponry, and soon their own fighters were equipped with advanced energy weapons. Human engineers, working tirelessly in hidden underground bunkers, had developed cloaking devices, making their ships invisible to the Dranvok's advanced sensors. Every new piece of technology was a reminder to the Dranvok that their invincibility was a lie. But the humans' greatest weapon was their ability to inspire. Despite the odds, despite the overwhelming force of the Dranvok, the humans never lost hope. Every human, from the youngest soldier to the oldest civilian, knew that they were fighting not just for survival, but for the future of their species. The war had united them in ways that had never been seen before. National borders had become meaningless, replaced by a single, unified purpose: to defend Earth, no matter the cost. As the battle moved into its second year, the Dranvok had begun to feel the weight of their arrogance. They had thought that Earth would be an easy conquest, that humanity would bow before their superior strength. But now, the tide of war was shifting, and it was the Dranvok who were on the defensive. The humans had turned their planet into a fortress, and with each passing day, they were becoming more skilled in warfare. The Dranvok, for the first time in their long history, were starting to question whether they could win this war. In one pivotal moment, a group of human commanders devised a daring plan to infiltrate the Dranvok flagship. It was a bold move, one that could either turn the tide of the war or result in total annihilation. But the humans had nothing left to lose. They knew that they could not continue to fight a war of attrition forever. If they were going to win, they had to strike at the heart of the Dranvok Empire. With precision and courage, a team of elite human soldiers, backed by their most skilled pilots, managed to infiltrate the Dranvok flagship. They fought their way through the ship's defenses, taking down Dranvok soldiers at every turn. The team reached the bridge of the flagship, where they confronted the Dranvok High Command. In an act of desperation, the humans launched a devastating strike, causing massive damage to the Dranvok ship. The explosion sent shockwaves through the Dranvok fleet, causing confusion and chaos. The Dranvok were shaken. They had never experienced such a bold and coordinated attack. The humans had struck at the core of their empire, and the message was clear. They were no longer the underdogs. Humanity had found its strength, and it was far greater than anyone had ever imagined. As the Dranvok regrouped, they knew that the war was far from over. But they also knew that the humans had proven something fundamental. The galaxy had underestimated Earth, and in doing so, they had awakened a force they could not easily defeat. The humans had shown the Dranvok that Earth was not a planet to be ignored. It was a planet of warriors, a planet of Deathworlders. And now, the Dranvok had learned the hard way that no one, no matter how powerful, could conquer the will of humanity. The tide of war had shifted, but the battle was far from over. The Dranvok, reeling from the devastating blow to their flagship, were desperate to regain control. Their fleet, once a symbol of unparalleled power, was now in disarray. The human forces, however, had tasted victory, and they were determined to finish what they had started. Earth, once thought to be a planet of no consequence, had become the heart of the greatest resistance the galaxy had ever seen. The Dranvok had underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. In the aftermath of the attack on the Dranvok flagship, the humans knew they couldn't waste the opportunity. The Dranvok were on the defensive, but their forces were still formidable. The human resistance had grown in strength, fueled by the sheer will to survive and the desire to prove that Earth was not a planet to be conquered. Soldiers from every corner of the globe had come together, forming an alliance that was more than just a military force. It was a symbol of unity, defiance, and determination. Human generals gathered in secret war rooms, strategizing their next move. They knew the Dranvok would come for revenge, but the humans had something the Dranvok couldn't understand. They fought not just for survival, but for the future of their people. They fought for their homes, their families, and their planet. This wasn't just a battle, it was a fight for everything they held dear. The human commanders devised a daring plan to strike at the heart of the Dranvok Empire, a plan that could either end the war or spell humanity's destruction. The Dranvok's main warships, while weakened, still controlled the skies above Earth, and their command center remained intact. To win, the humans would need to cripple the Dranvok fleet and take out their high command once and for all. But the risks were astronomical. The Dranvok would not go down without a fight, and the humans could not afford another failure. The plan called for a coordinated assault, with human forces attacking on multiple fronts, distracting the Dranvok long enough for a small team of elite soldiers to infiltrate the Dranvok's central command station. They would need to disable the fleet's remaining leadership and bring the war to an abrupt and decisive end. It was a long shot, but the humans had become experts at turning the odds in their favor. They had no choice but to try. As the operation commenced, the sky above Earth became a battleground. Human warships, now equipped with advanced alien technology, launched a full-scale assault on the remaining Dranvok vessels. The Dranvok, stunned by the unexpected counterattack, scrambled to defend their ships, but their tactics were no longer enough. The humans had learned from every previous encounter, and they adapted quickly. Each move was calculated, precise, and devastating. The Dranvok found themselves overwhelmed by the human forces, who fought with unmatched ferocity. On the ground, human soldiers continued to fight the invading Dranvok forces, pushing them back inch by inch. The battlefields, once filled with despair, were now a symbol of human strength and resilience. From the jungles to the cities, the humans had turned every inch of Earth into a trap for the invaders. The Dranvok had underestimated the humans' ability to adapt, and now they were paying the price. Meanwhile, the small elite team of soldiers infiltrating the Dranvok command station had reached the heart of their enemy's operations. It was a perilous mission, and every step had to be taken with the utmost care. The team moved silently through the Dranvok's massive fortress, avoiding security and taking out guards when necessary. They knew the fate of the war rested on their shoulders. As they made their way deeper into the heart of the Dranvok's command center, the team was faced with more obstacles. The Dranvok, realizing that something was amiss, began to lock down their facility, and the team had to move faster than ever. Tensions were high, and every moment was a race against time. They had one shot to complete their mission, and if they failed, the Dranvok would retaliate with everything they had. Finally, they reached the central control room, where the last remnants of the Dranvok High Command were gathered. The team knew that the fate of the entire galaxy rested on their next move. With a final, coordinated strike, the team disabled the Dranvok's command systems, sending the entire fleet into chaos. The Dranvok, already on the brink of collapse, were left without leadership, and their forces faltered. Back on Earth, the human forces capitalized on the opportunity. The Dranvok fleet was in disarray, and their remaining warships were scattered, unable to defend themselves. The humans launched a final, all-out assault, overwhelming the Dranvok's defenses and forcing them into retreat. The battle for Earth, once thought unwinnable, had been turned in humanity's favor. As the last Dranvok ships fled the atmosphere, the humans stood victorious. The war was far from over, but the Dranvok had learned a harsh lesson. Earth was not a planet to be taken lightly. Humanity, once underestimated and dismissed as weak, had shown the galaxy what real Deathworlders were capable of. The Dranvok had learned that Earth's warriors were not to be feared. They were to be respected. The humans, battered but unbroken, looked to the future. They had defended their planet, and in doing so, they had proved that no one, no matter how powerful, could ever truly conquer them. The battle was won, but the war was not over. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity, and the Dranvok, along with every other species, would never forget the lesson that Earth had taught them.